Okay, so this is a quick video solution of page 353, question 43. It's a solving quadratics question, and you can see from the question here that it requires a little bit of tidying up before we can get anywhere near factorising and solving. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to multiply out our brackets on both sides of the equation. Pause the video here and do that yourself first, and then play and see if you're correct for that part. So multiplying that out, you get 2x squared minus 4x equals 3x plus 30. It looks a little bit more like a quadratic, but it's not quite set up right for us to be able to go ahead and factorise and solve. I need to have everything on the left-hand side. It absolutely has to be equals to 0. So pause the video again for a second while you take the information from the right-hand side of the equation and move it over to the left-hand side. And then try and tidy it up to make it look more like a quadratic. And then play again and see if you're correct. Okay, so I've brought everything over to the left. Remember that anything that doesn't have a sign is automatically a positive. So this 3x here was a positive 3x. So when I brought it across the equal sign, it became a minus 3x. Plus 30, the same thing happened. Over it came, now it's a negative 30. Watch out for your signs because people make mistakes with them so often, and let's try and avoid them. Okay, so I'm not quite there yet. I still need to tidy this up a little bit. Okay, now so I've got what looks like a regular standard quadratic. Happy to go ahead with this. We'll take our normal approach. We're going to first of all find our guide number. Our guide number, of course, is got by multiplying the 2 and the 30 together. So in this case, our guide number is going to be 60. Now 60 has a lot of factors, and I'm going to have to list them all off to be sure that I have the right ones to be able to make my 7x. And a tip when you're listing factors is start with 1 by, 2 by, 3 by, and work down through it that way, because it means that you won't leave anything out by accident. So here's the first 3. Can't make a 7 yet out of any of these, so I have to keep going. Okay, here's my full list of factors for 60. Right, which ones look promising? I want to make a 7, and again I want the signs to be different, and I know that because of this minus here. So I want to be adding and subtracting whichever pair I choose. Okay, so it's going to be 5 and 12. Okay, now that we've established that, try and go ahead yourself and see if you can factorise out your quadratic from here. So pause the video, give it a bash, see can you figure out what x is equal to, and then play and see if you're correct. And if you get stuck at any stage, play for a bit until you've figured out the problem that you run into. So I'm going to write down 2x squared plus 5x minus 12x minus 30 equals 0. And I'm choosing plus 5 and minus 12 because plus 5 minus 12 gives me the minus 7 there in the middle. And now I need to factorise. So when I factorise for the first 2 terms, all they have in common is x. So I'll factorise out x. And what will I put in the bracket then? Well, it's going to be 2x plus 5. So this is handy because it gives me kind of a bit of an idea of what I should factorise out from the next one. So I could factorise out 2. But that wouldn't give me a 2x in here, sure it wouldn't. I'll actually have to keep going. I'm going to have to factorise out 6 in order to be left with 2 in the bracket. And everything in the bracket here is a plus, but these guys are both minus. So I'm going to factorise out a minus term. So I'll factorise out minus 6 I should say, not x. Just minus 6. And that will leave me then in the bracket with the 2x plus 5 that I want. And don't forget to keep that equals 0 on the end. Okay, so now I want to make my 2 sets of brackets. So I've got x minus 6 by 2x plus 5. And then I think you should know where to go from here. You're going to let each bracket equal to 0 and solve for x. So again, if you got this far, pause now, try and work it out yourself, and then play and see if you're right. So I let each of my factors equal to 0, and then I just solve those 2 little equations to get x. So in the first equation, x minus 6 equals 0, the minus 6 just comes across and becomes a positive 6. So that's x equals 6. I said earlier on that if there's no sign, it's automatically a positive. So you can put the plus in front of the 6 if you want, but you don't have to because it will automatically be plus if you don't write anything in. And then for the second equation here, to get the x by itself, well, I'll first of all move the 5 across. So that's 2x equals minus 5. And then the 2 will have to come across and divide in. So minus 5 over 2. And it's perfectly fine to leave it as a fraction. In fact, I tend to leave them as fractions. If you write it as minus 2.5, that's right as well. Minus 5 over 2 is absolutely grand as it is. So these 2 values are my 2 solutions to my quadratic. X equals 6, x equals minus 5 over 2.